do you believe that God answers prayers? Why do you believe that? I used to believe it. I used to believe it very strongly. I questioned it sometimes because I'm like, okay, I prayed for something and it didn't happen. And I really wanted to. I wanted things that were aligned with his purpose. As a Jehovah's Witness, I remember there was one couple that was quite interested in studying the Bible, and I really wanted to study with them. I really felt like, oh, you know what? I can really help these people. I didn't have a Bible study and I really wanted one. And I thought, hey, God will listen to me. And I prayed really, really deeply for a long time, many times. And the Bible study didn't happen. As a matter of fact, they rejected the Bible study over something very trivial. And didn't happen. See, we were always told that God only answers prayers if they're aligned with his purpose. But what if he doesn't? What if the answer is no? What if the answer is not now? What if the answer is later? How would you know? How would you know what the answer is? Some people say, well, put Jehovah to the test and see, pray and see. If it happens, then he listened to your prayer. If it didn't happen, then maybe later. Maybe the answer was different. But truthfully, how would that be different with people from any other nation? Any other God, any other religion? They're all using the same premises and they're all using the same examples. So Jehovah's Witnesses would often use this example of, okay, there was this brother, he was a circuit officer and he didn't have any money and he had to pay for this medical bill and he didn't know how he's gonna do it, and he prayed to Jehovah. And guess what? Just in his last moment of desperation, somebody came, knocked on his door, brought him a whole bunch of groceries with an envelope for the exact amount of money that he needed. Now, you might think, okay, Jehovah obviously listened to him and obviously he got what he wanted. He prayed about it and voila. Problem is, you will hear exactly the same stories in every religion out there. But then, Jack, you don't understand. We went to service and this guy wanted to commit suicide. And then we had this kid who was saying like, oh, come to the next door. We're just one more door. And we wanted to finish service. And he said, no, please, let's do one more door. And because we went to the last door, the guy said, you know what? I was about to end my life. And I was praying to God, please help me. And you guys showed up. That is a sign of angels directing the work and Jehovah listening to prayers, even of people who are not witnesses, but he listens to all the prayers and then directs witnesses to that kind of a person who's seeking. Wow. You go ask Mormons if they have similar stories, because there will be a lot. You ask people from any religion and any religious people if the prayer works, and they will all tell you, regardless of who they pray to, regardless of how often and how much, and they will all tell you the same thing. See, people for thousands of years prayed to different gods because there was one god who was controlling a wind, another one controlling forest, and another one controlling something else. They all had a god for something. God for sunrise, God for death, God for diseases, God for good health, God for whatever. Later on, the Catholic Church kind of wanted to appease the pagan people, and it said, okay, we're not going to have God for everything. We're just going to have saints. There was a saint for this and a saint for that, and every saint was responsible for something, and people pray to those saints or to pray to Holy Mary or something like this. And they come up with different stories of why it's okay to pray to those people. Now, there was a moment when I started thinking, how is that even making any sense? If we're praying to Jehovah, trying to figure it out, if he's blessing us or not, what if he doesn't bless us? Does that mean he does not listen to our prayers? At what point are we going to say, maybe he didn't listen to our prayers? When I was a kid, we would always pray before we eat food. But I was curious. I was like, well, what if I don't pray before I eat? Will the sandwich taste different? I remember I would sneak into the kitchen. I would eat one sandwich and I'm like, I want to compare with the sandwich before and the sandwich after. Does it taste different? How would we know? We're praying for a blessing upon this food. Does the food that was blessed taste any different than the food that is not blessed? Would there be any difference? And guess what? logically, no, there is no difference. But yet, still until today, people pray for blessing upon food. But why? What really is blessing? If you ask somebody else, somebody who's a true believer, what is a blessing? Very often they would not be able to give you an answer. They don't know. They don't know the definition of a blessing. They're just like, well, when God helps you. If you would put 10,000 people on 2 different islands, and on one island, people are praying and they're begging and then praying and they do rituals to the same God that you're praying to. And another island full of atheists, they don't pray to anybody. And then you come after 10 years and watch how they're doing. And you visit one and you visit the other. And without communicating with them, you just watch them from above. How would you know which group prayed and which group didn't? Would there be any significant difference? You know, they actually did this as a scientific experiment. They wanted to know if prayer actually works. So guess what? They divided people in a hospital into those who were praying and those who were not praying. And they did the research to see if prayer actually helps. If it helps people to heal quicker, get physically well better. And guess what came out? 51% of people who were not praying would heal quicker. 51%, not even 50-50. Now, you might think, why? Why? And scientists don't have an exact answer, but what happened was a lot of people who were praying, they would refuse specific medical treatment because they believed that God will heal them. Now, think about it for a moment. Does prayer actually work? Or did it actually harm these people who had that belief? Very recently, we had a pandemic, and you heard many times people were even going to churches. Government is like, no, you cannot go to churches. You cannot congregate together. This is how pandemics would spread really quickly. We have to isolate people. But they would go to church, and their excuse was this: I believe in Jesus. His blood will cleanse me from any disease. I am immune to this. See, I think this is where the prayer and the faith and the belief can actually be very dangerous. It is the same thing with Jehovah's Witnesses who would say, oh, you know what? You don't have to give a blood transfusion to anyone, to a child or you or anyone, because there is resurrection. So why would you extend your temporary life right now and give up the paradise on earth, everlasting life later? It doesn't make sense. It's like giving up 5 cents and trying to save 5 cents and there is $1 billion waiting for you. It just doesn't make sense. Well, this is where I believe that prayers could be harmful, because people start relying on fantasies. They start relying on their faith in deity, in blessings, instead of doing something about it. For very long time, people are like, okay, I see lightning. I know Thor is angry with me. I have to give him sacrifice. Obviously, we have sinned. We got to give him our virgin daughter, or we got to give them, our best ram or sheep or something like that. They did the same thing to Jehovah, like best of every animal that you have, best of your crops or whatever it was, right? Because Jehovah is angry with us. Look, he's punishing us because we have fleas, or our crops are not giving enough fruits and vegetables, or whatever it was. And they prayed. So for a moment, when I was waking up, I'm like, you know what? I got to put this to the test myself. I can't just, say, oh, prayer works or it doesn't work. Let me put this to the test. Let me actually pray for something very specific and see if God will answer. And guess what? Nothing. Nothing, nada, zero answer. And I sincerely believed. It's not like I was not a believer. I was a person who believed so strongly that if somebody would ask me, hey, Jack, are you going to take blood or are you going to die? I would say I would die because Jehovah will resurrect me. So if you would be willing to sacrifice your life for something, then you are a believer. And I did believe. But at one point, I'm like, I got to test this out. What if I'm wrong? Everybody prays in every religion out there, and they're all convinced that God listens to them, and they all believe that you are praying to the wrong God. And if something happens, then it's probably Satan pretending to be the angel of light. I'm like, how would I know if Satan is not misleading the whole organization, pretending to be an angel of light, and actually answer some of the prayers? How would you distinguish? Man, you start putting logic into this and you'll see that everything starts collapsing. See, the problem is if you're praying for something that it's supposed to be aligned with Jehovah and his goal and his will, then he's going to do it anyways. If you're praying for God's kingdom to come, well, if you stop praying, if everybody stops praying for God's kingdom to come, will that mean that God will not bring his kingdom? That he already promised that he's going to do it. So if lack of prayer would change his timetable? Or what if everybody prays? Or if everybody prays double as much? Does that mean that he's going to bring his kingdom twice as fast? He's only going to cross off that date. No, more people praying. I got to bring it closer. Will that change his mind? See, if somebody, let's say, is asking you for a ride, say, I need to go to a hospital right into town. Would you please drive me? And now you have a choice. You can tell that person, yes, I'll drive you. See, I'm sacrificing my time with a family and I'll go on, out of my way to help you and drive you to the hospital. Or if you already were planning to go to the hospital, if you already were on your way to that location, and this is what you're planning to do, and somebody comes and tells you, hey, you know what? I want to go to the hospital. Would you take me? Then you can tell them, you can be honest. Oh, I'm going anyways. Yeah, hop on. But then you're not really doing them much of a favor because you're going there anyways. So if you're praying with something that it's according to God's plans, and he's not changing his plans, he's just going with his timetable, then is he really doing you any favor? Is he really answering your prayers? Or is you just asking for something that it's happening? It's like if you see a government building a bridge and then that's what they're doing, that's what they're planning, that's they're putting their money and workers, and then you go there and then you make a phone call to the government and say, please, please, please build a bridge. Well, we're already doing it. If you didn't call, or whether you call, it wouldn't make a difference. Same thing here. If God has a specific plan of what to do, what not to do, your prayer to him, your call to him will not make any difference. So the question is, does God really changes things if you ask him to do? Because there are people who will tell you, oh, of course, I had so many personal questions to God and he answered those prayers to me. I had to go to the meeting and I lost my car keys and I didn't know where they were. And mine was blank. I was so nervous. And then I prayed, Jehovah, please help me to find the keys. You know where the keys are. Please help me to find them. And then voila, magically they show up. And you're like, yeah, God answered my prayers. Then you got to ask yourself, there are girls, young girls, 12, 13 years old, 15. And they're being locked down as sex slaves. Yes, sex slaves. They have AIDS. They get pregnant. They get raped several times a night. And they pray and begging God to stop this. And he's too busy helping you find your keys, but he won't do anything about that. There's countless people trying to find the children who were kidnapped and they're taking into sex trafficking. And people pray. And God knows where they are. He wouldn't do anything about it. Does God answer your prayers? If he does answer your prayers with your minor problems, whatever you have, and he refuses to answer prayers to those children, then ask yourself what kind of a God he is. Why would you claim that he answered your prayers but refuse or ignore the prayers of those children? Ask yourself that, because that question would not leave me. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this to the test. I kept praying, and I just trying to figure it out whether things happen or not. Then I stopped praying. He says, as a witness, I stopped praying. I'm not gonna pray for the next 2-3 months. Let's see if my life is any different. Let's see if my life is better or worse. And guess what? No difference. Completely no difference. No better, no worse. But you can cherry pick data, can't you? You can cherry pick saying, oh, you know what? If something good happens, that's an answer to my prayer. If something bad happens, oh, maybe I don't deserve it. It's just cherry picking data. It's biased opinion about what truly happens. Countless people are praying. Countless people are not willing to put that prayer to the test. Countless people claim that they have connection with the spiritual world, with their friend, invisible friend. And I always ask them, if you truly believe this, that he answers the prayers, then ask him a specific question. Ask him, how do you cure cancer? If he answers your prayers, then please ask him about a recipe of how to cure cancer, because he knows. And if he refuses to tell you, ask yourself, why would he refuse to tell you this? Why is he communicating with his people and blessing them and helping them and answering their questions and answering their prayers, but he would not answer a prayer of how to cure cancer? Why not? Why not? So ask yourself, would you be willing to put it to the test? If you're praying, if your prayer is part of your life, then put it to the test and watch if it really does make a difference. Stop praying for a while. See if it makes a difference. Is it only a psychological thing when people actually stop and think and talk to themselves? Because it's proven that if you just talk things over in your head, psychologically it will help you. You feel calmer. You feel better. But you can do this with meditation. You can do this with talking to any deity you can possibly imagine. People feel better because they pray to certain saints or Holy Mary, to statues or Allah or Jehovah or Trinity or Jesus, you name it. They all feel better because they believe. Just to believe that somebody's listening, just to believe that, oh, somebody will bless me, will cause people to feel better. So is prayer harmful? If it causes people to feel better, then why take it away? Well, I think if you're looking at people who pray to their God you don't believe in, then you might say prayer is useless. They're praying to the God that doesn't believe, that doesn't exist. You go to India, for example, people create their own gods. As we speak, as I'm giving this talk, there is somebody there who will make a piece of wood and turn it into God. And they will pray to it, and they will feed it and wash it and sanctify it, and you name it. And they'll pray hoping that this particular statue will have some magic powers and it will bless them and help them and they feel better. And you might go and tell them, you guys are crazy. Well, why would you believe this? But they're looking at you and they're saying, well, based on what are you saying that your God is listening to you? Because exactly the same evidence that you're bringing to the table, they're bringing to the table with their own God that they've made. No difference. Exactly the same. So ask yourself, is it harmful? I believe that actually it is. It is harmful because it causes people to rely on imagination, on something that doesn't exist. And people reject a better solution. They stop looking for answers because they prayed and they believe that God will take care of things. Just like me, I was the same way. Don't get me wrong. I saw the I heard that the talk about the Circle de Vizier, and somebody took care of his financial problems. I had major financial problems. I was praying, Jehovah, please help me. I don't know how I'm gonna handle this. I have a pregnant wife. I'm living in my in-laws' basement. I'm drowning in credit card debt. I'm making a minimum wage. As a matter of fact, lower than minimum wage. How am I going to support my family and my child and everything when I can't support myself? It's crazy. Please help me. And I looked out through the window. No one's coming. You know when my situation got better? When I realized that it's up to me. That I have to stop relying on some invisible force. Even as a Jehovah's Witness, I still remember to take care of my problems. That it's up to me to resolve them. That I have to rely first on me. Because if I don't, my first answer was, oh, God does not bless people. He blesses people's efforts. So if you put an effort, he will help you to achieve your goal. But you got to put the effort. And then later on, I'm thinking, what if you put the effort and don't pray? Would that be any different? And I realized, no. The effort and the plan and strategy, and when you push and when you relentless, and when it comes to pushing forward, that's when you're gonna see results. But the prayer itself, it might just give you a calmness for a moment when you just like, oh, I'm just throwing my burden upon somebody else and it's all good. I would say test it. Watch it. Test it, and watch the results. And then come to the right conclusion. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.